Supergirl. And I love Supergirl. I'm not going to go over the origin story again. But the idea of having superpowers, being endowed with certain gifts, and then what does it mean to have a responsibility to step into a mantle of expressing those gifts? And do you have to? And do you have sovereignty over what that means to wield your powers? And when it comes to Supergirl's case, you remember she's coming in as Superman's cousin. So there's already this oh, you're super
the expectation that you'll be like him. But like to your point, she had trauma with humans, so she's not
doesn't have the same thing as like being like, I'm here to be the guardian of this planet. I was sent here to do that. And she was more like, my planet was destroyed and I ended up here and these people hurt me. And now you're asking me to use my powers to help these people. Like, why? But coming to creating friendships and also her being trained by Wonder Woman, there's also a level of she learns to develop sisterhood. And that is why I love Supergirl.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right, Arthi, your pick.
My pick is kind of one of my favorite characters ever. It is a character from the now popular show
Loved
Witcher.
it before it was
Loved
popular.
it before it was popular. should wear a t-shirt that says that.
Yes.
Yennefer of Vengerberg from the show The Witcher.
I love that you used her whole title. I'm going to put that as a title.
For those who are unfamiliar, Witcher is a book series. I heard about it when it was created into a video game. Mm-hmm. And while I do not play video games as much as you, I know the entire story arc of all of the video game. It is also more popular now because it's a great show on Netflix. Season 3 just came out. So I knew about the arc of Yennefer of Vengerberg through the video game storyline. Mm-hmm. So as things were unfolding in the show, I sort of had a sense where it was going. She was born hideous and deformed.
Yes.
And she she demonstrated an aptitude for magic. And she went into the school of magic called Aretuza, which is it's like a big institution, like an education system for magic wielders. And she learns to, with great difficulty, hone and develop her power. And she's actually a very powerful person. Mm-hmm. Her deformities end up healing just because magic is a thing in this reality. And she lives a very long life. While she's in school, though, her emotional angst, her, I guess she was bullied a lot as a child, and because she was deformed, she has a hunger for power. She has she's also very beautiful, and so but she wants to be in court. She wants to be seen. She wants to be acknowledged, and she gets all of that as a mage, a mage who lives and works in courts for like 30, 40 years. And she's beautiful. But then the character describes it, she becomes the royal ass wiper, right? Like picking up after kings. And so she gets her understanding of power, but it is deeply unsatisfactory. And so she goes rogue from the organization that is the Brotherhood of Mages. And then she meets the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia. They have a relationship, but they're they meet, they have passionate love, and then they go off. Neither of them can land in the relationship for a really long time. But her hunger for power is so unsatisfied that she starts hungering for wanting a baby, and you have to give up the ability to be a mother in the storyline. And so she goes through these weird, in her desperation, she is her worst. And she's and while that's true, she's really powerful. So at some point, she loses her powers. In the video game, she goes blind. In the show, she loses her magic. So this powerful character loses vision or loses a big part of her identity. And she goes a bit crazy in that she gets so desperate that she almost takes a young child to her death, Cyrilla's character. And then at the appropriate moment, a lot of her sanity or some aspect of herself intervenes. So Yennefer of Vengerberg has all of these arcs where, by definition, she is powerful, she's a mage, she's beautiful, she has everything, we all kind of may want.
Yes.
But her character suffers from such emotional voids. And it's sort of like having great power is not enough. Because when you come from these voids in yourself, when you lose something, when you're grieving something, when you're enraged at the world, and Witcher has a very political show, especially in its later seasons. And so like, she's dragged into politics at some point. She can't open her heart. She believes everyone's going to use and abuse her, which is, which
who can blame her for feeling like that?
Yeah. So she's not a pretty character. Like, her arc is not pretty, but it's a really interesting expression of your personal power. So she realizes when she loses her power, that her power isn't her choice. And when she's able to sacrifice herself for the life of another, she actually gains all her magical abilities back. And then she actually ends up becoming a mother to this girl, not biologically, but in training her. And that grounds her like so deeply. And then she's able to have a more loving and trusting relationship. She has to rebuild a lot of burned bridges. Yeah. And she has to go back to Aretuza, the school, and rebuild. So a lot of her arc is to rebuild what she destroyed. And so the reason I relate to her is not because like I identify as evil, but when in my more immature states, and my family can attest to this, I had a really bad relationship with my parents and with a lot of people I was close to, not because they did anything wrong, but because I was just unlanded in so many ways and I couldn't interpret. It's almost like I didn't interpret love well. I couldn't interpret care. I would see it as like invasions of some sort. And so I would push away what I didn't understand. And this character has very similar signs. And so when I had to heal and resolve that, I had to then go back to my family and then heal some of those bridges. Yeah. And so it's this thing, like we all, have self-power, self-love, and that's all great. But if it's not landed in relationship to all your important and intimate relationships, then there's some part of you that goes crazy in desperation. Yeah. You can't connect, you can't land. Like something is so clearly missing and you go crazy because you don't know what it is. Yeah. And when I watched so much of her arc, I was like, oh my God, in my small personalized way, not to this extreme, but like you can understand where it comes from and why she is like that and how you need these things. Like you need it. And I think at least you need it.
I think you need it too. I think it's a matter of when we aren't honest with ourselves about our deepest wants. And that can be hard to interpret. That's not an easy
the vulnerability is hard, right? So you armor up and then you push people away because you're strong and you're independent and all this stuff. And that's one way of doing it. And then the emptiness, right? Yeah, because there's no escape from the hollowness.
I used to sabotage relationships all the time.
Oh, same. Yeah.
And then create some crazy stories that like somehow they were horror. So
I mean, we all do it. Yeah. And it's like, her arc is also really interesting because she has to go so deeply into like the pit of horribleness to then come back and be like,
emerge out of the underworld.
Really, yeah. It's like the phoenix rising, So,
sure.
Yeah. So Yennifer Vengerberg.
You have that vibe too. Not to say they're going to like burn down everything and like let but the attribution of how much emotions are related to your own personal magic too.
Yes.
And, like once you come to power is that, not to let it, in the magicians they talk about, don't let the magic consume you. To come to a point that you're just nothing but the magic.
Yeah.
So